So I wanted to take an opportunity to show everybody what the new technician application is going to look like for all of our field operations going forward when we launch our new software, which is right now scheduled for October 1st. We're getting really close. We've gotten all of the data entered. We're starting to demo with a few select technicians, and so I think it's a good idea for you to get a little bit acclimated with what this is going to look like. First and foremost, everything is web-based, so you will be issued an iPad, and through that iPad, we'll create an icon on your desktop, which will take you right to where you're able to log in. It'll look very similar to this. Basically, all we're doing is opening up a web page, and that will give you access to what's called Field Access, which is the technician side of the software that we'll be using. And this is going to it's going to change how you approach every single job going forward. Basically, we're going to be paperless. We'll have no more handwritten work orders. You'll probably still have a book just in case the iPads fail or you can't get a connection or something along those lines. But outside of those instances, all of our work orders will be done electronically, and they can be emailed to customers. While that's not a requirement, some might want that. All of our billing will be done based off of those electronic work orders. Purchase orders, you'll be able to pull your own POs, and I'm going to kind of walk you through what all of that looks like. So the first thing is we will create an access login for you, and it's going to be danboysmechanical.fieldconnect.com/field access, and basically you can enter that in at any point, whether it's on a computer at home, your iPad that you'll be issued, any computer at all, as long as you have an internet browser, and you put that in, it's going to bring you to a login screen. That'll have our logo and a place for you to log in. We'll be giving you each your username and passwords, and then once you click log in, mine's going to look a little bit different because I'm still in the demo phase here. But once you log in, this is the screen that you'll access. And basically, on this screen is what's called an assignment, and an assignment is essentially a work order or an assignment to go on a job site for whatever the call might be. And as long as there's an assignment on the calendar, you'll be able to view it here. As long as there's an assignment on the board, the dispatch board on the office side of things, and it's been actually assigned to you, you'll be able to view it here. And I'm going to get into these in a little bit more detail in a second. But on the left-hand side here, you'll notice a couple of things. So there's this box here, which gives you some other drop downs, and I'm going to go through each one of those. And then the home button here will always take you right back to this assignments screen. So if you're ever in a weird spot, you hit that home button, it'll take you back to your assignment screen here. So what I want to do is go through this left-hand side first, and then I'll walk you through what it looks like when you're actually in a job and are working on a job. So over here, sometimes there might be some static messages that we'll be sending you. They will show up here as well as right here. And that's just like some basic general information that we might want to send you. We're also able to text you right through in the software. That'll go to your cell phones. We can email you right through the software. So there's a lot of communication ability through the new software. From there, the assignments, you can choose all of your assignments. You can choose to see just today's assignments, which in this case there are none because this is set for the future. The past 7 days assignments that we've worked on. So any jobs that you've been assigned that are still open. So basically, if it's been finished and completed, it won't show up here. But if it's not finished, for instance, it's in a hold status and you worked on it in the past 7 days, it will show up here, or you can just select all and that'll give you everything. From there, you've got what's called unapplied time. So this is where you'd enter your shop time. One important note is that all time is going to be entered electronically based off of the time you enter for each of your work orders, as well as your unapplied time. So that would be shop time or education time, so on and so forth. So all of your time is going to go through this app as well. And what's cool is that when you start entering time, get time entered, and you go down to this field time, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, you'll be able to check and see exactly what the detail is of your time. So how many regular, overtime, double time hours do I have? It will itemize what jobs those were, what the site location was. You'll be able to get your totals. And then at the end of each week, instead of taking a picture of your timesheet, you actually don't even need to keep timesheets anymore. This is going to be doing it for you as you go. You check all of them. You can click approve selected, and it will email that off, and you're good to go. We can also do that from the office if we have to override it, and for instance, you're on vacation, might have forgotten to do that. So time will all get broken out here. Your timesheets will be created automatically based on the calls that you go on, and or any unapplied time entry, or the shop time that we just discussed. You actually have the ability to create new work orders out in the field. So let's say that you're on a job, customer says, hey, I want you to look at this as well. It's a totally different scope. I'm going to need a separate invoice. You can actually create that in the field on your own and begin working on that assignment as soon as you've created it. So you have that ability to create work orders on your own, and we can see that from the office as well. Schedule. For any given day, if you wanted to look at your 3-day, 7-day, you can see exactly what calls are on your board for which days. We're able to move those around for you. You do not have the ability to move them around, but you can send a note to the dispatcher and they can move them around for you. We talked about field time. One of the really cool things that you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to look up customer history. So for instance, let's say that I wanted to look up customer work that we've done at a certain street address. And we don't have much in the system right now, but let's say I put in Dan Boy's address here, and I want to see all the work that we've done since May. You can click that Find Work Orders. It will show you all of the work that we've done on those days. And when the service order report, this is essentially what your work order is going to be, will pop up, and you can take a look at what other technicians have done at the same job site that you're currently at. You'll be able to go up to a year back to see what was done, and I think that will be extremely valuable for you so that you're not having to call in, and you can look up exactly what was done on that same job site if there's ever any questions. There's a calculator in here. That's pretty basic. Not sure that you're going to use that here. And then just the one view that we have currently. So again, what's really important to understand is that each call that you go on will be assigned to you from the office. It will be on your board. So if at any point in time you're looking at your schedule, where'd that go here? If you're looking at your schedule, there will be calls that will be on your board. For instance, I'm working within John's here. He's been helping us test this out. He's got 2 calls scheduled on his board for tomorrow, and that's where you'll be able to see that. Now, how you enter your time into those is what's going to, in turn, determine what your timesheet for the week is going to look like. In addition, if there were any non-job related time, you'd go to that unapplied time, create an entry there. But at any point in time, you're going to be able to take a look and see what your timesheet looks like. If there's an error, we can adjust it before you approve everything. So the basic function of this is when a job comes in, when a call comes in, and we're going to need to dispatch you out into that so that you can create your electronic work order, record your time against that, pull any POs, so on and so forth, is we will create an assignment within the office for that work order. And once we've done that, it will pop up here. So we've created some calls here that said that it needed parts. John indicated on the last time he was out there that he needed parts, so we've moved that on to the 14th here. But I'm going to use that as an example to continue the work on these. So if you click on the details here, it looks very similar to what we worked on before, and basically you're going to kind of work down the list here. Now, some of you never got exposure to what we were working on before within the software, but basically when you get into call, it's going to give you the description of what the work was. This one, they didn't enter anything. Backflow work here. Estimated hours, we're entering 2 hours in for each job right now, but that's a required field for the office. If the customer had any purchase order numbers that they wanted, if there was any contact notes about specifically who we should contact, there's a site alert north of Ford Road at the end of Vinoy near Industrial, so that makes it a little bit easier to find. That said, one of the cool things is if you click on that little button next to the address, boom, it'll pop up a map for you in a separate tab, and you can go actually do driving directions if you're using that on your iPad. And that was this little icon right here next to the street address. Some basic information, phone number, contact information for that call. The bulk of this is really down here, and that's when we start getting into the status, what our notes are, how much labor did we have, what was the material, any non-stock items, so on and so forth. So I kind of want to walk you through this, and ultimately the goal here is two things. Essentially, we're going to create that electronic version of what you currently create by hand. And so we'll no longer have those work order books. You're going to go through this process. You're going to be creating an electronic version of what you're used to creating by hand. That can get emailed to the office. It can get emailed to the customer. It will live within the system, and at any point in time, if we ever want to pull that up, we can do that. So that means no more calling you for lost work orders or, hey, I never got your work order. That won't ever happen again. As long as you've been dispatched into the right job and you're entering your information. So the first thing that we're going to do when you get a job is either we will from the office or you can change the status. So in this part, let's say that we're picking back up from a previous call. So we're going to go in here and we're going to say we're dispatched into this. I'm going to change that, and now immediately it shows up that you're dispatched into this call. And that's on the 13th of August, right? So from there, you're obviously going to do some work. You're going to be going through some diagnostic. You have the ability to create what your work order notes for this job at any point in time. You can see John had entered some previous work order notes from 8/10. Those are still there. So now we're just going to be building upon that as we go. So this work completed is where we would be entering our notes for what was done. And this is going to actually show up on our electronic work order as well. So if we wanted to put a note in here, for instance, I could say return, and you're going to be able to dictate this. I can't dictate it from my computer, but on your iPads, there'll be a little microphone. All you have to do is hit the microphone, and you're going to be able to dictate this as opposed to actually having to typing it. So it should be a lot easier for you. But let's just say return to replace backflow that were damaged. So I will put that in there. I click update, and one of the things you'll see is, okay, now John has on 8/13 at 3:47 returned to replace backflows that were damaged, and that will now be saved to the work order. If there were site notes, for instance, you wanted to add additional directions or any other information that was specific just to the job site, like be sure to use the side entry code or door code is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, you can put that in there. Click update, and now for all next users who are going to be in this software, they'll be able to see that this note was there for the site as well. So notes is the next section. So, and you can expand and fold these down. So if you just click on that, it'll fold that down. If you pull it up, it'll pull it back up. I can see my site notes. I can see my work order notes. If there was any specific assignment notes that we had put in there in the office, they would show up here. Again, I'm dispatched into this. It's got me logged in. It's not time sensitive, so let's say that you're on the job for an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes, but we're going to charge 2 hours because of drive time or whatever. You're going to be able to manually enter that in. So I would do that by going down to my labor here, and I could say, all right, I've got 2 hours. Let's say I've got 4 hours of regular time for myself. I'm going to click add labor, and then boom, you'll see on 8/13, I've got 4 hours regular labor. That will show up there as well. Now that's actually what's going to show up on your timesheet, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So I've got my labor recorded for this job. Let's say that there was material that I wanted to put on this. So for instance, let's say that John was putting in a RPV or RPZ. So he can do a search for Febco. Boom, it'll come up 1-inch Febco. All right, I'm going to add one of those. And this search functionality is very easy. You can use any part of any word that's in the description and it will pop up. You can choose to select that. For instance, today we had Freon. You want to do a search for Freon. Boom, there it is. I've got 30 pounds. Perfect. I'm going to add that. It'll automatically add that for you. So any parts that we're using off of our trucks, that's where we'll enter that in the material, and you can do a search right from the keywords and it will pop right up for you. Non-stock items, this is for stuff that maybe you went to Home Depot and let's say I bought some fittings from Home Depot, or fittings. It doesn't have a lot of space here to enter, so description will be better. Fittings Home Depot, so on and so forth. How many of those I've got, unit of measure, you can leave that blank, what the cost of each one was. Great, I can add that to my non-stock. So this is stuff that's not coming off of your truck, it's stuff that you went to purchase, and it wasn't from a vendor. It was where you actually had to pay cash and we had to reimburse you for it. This could be like a bridge toll for those of you who travel. Quantity of one, got $5, you can add that. Bridge toll. Add non-stock, it will pop up there. So non-stock items. The coolest thing, before we get to that, so other items, this would be something like truck charge. You could do a search for truck charge, add that. If there was backflow, you can do a search for that. It will give you all the different additional backflow. You can add that. If there was a drain charge, you can do a search for drain charge. I want regular drain charge, you can add that. So these are your specific charges that we're giving customers, not related necessarily to our labor, but actual what are we charging them for. Those of you who do this on a regular basis, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and this is where you put those charges. Next thing, this is going to be the huge time saver that I think everybody's going to like, is purchase orders. So no longer will you need to call in to get a purchase order. When you are in an assignment and you want to pull a purchase order for that specific assignment or work order, all you have to do is go to your purchase orders tab, you click new PO, you do a search for your vendor. So let's say that this is Trane, you can do a search, Trane pops up, I'm getting parts, or I'm getting a contactor, or whatever it may be. I put those notes in there, I hit create PO, and just like that, your PO has been issued. So PO 35 was created. That's the number that you will give the supply house, and no longer do you need to call in to get a PO. Now that said, it's very, very important that every visit you make to the wholesale house, even if you go back there 5 different times to the same Trane location, every visit has to be a unique PO. And the reason why is if we're using the same PO over and over and over, they're sending us separate invoices for each visit. We have no idea when the last invoice is. So if you use it more than once, we have no idea how many invoices to expect. So it's really important that every time you go to a wholesale house, you come in here, you go to purchase orders, you create a new PO. Let's say I'm going back to Trane. Yep, I'm going back to Trane. I needed more materials. Now, on this time, I picked up a motor. All right, so I create a PO. Now I've got PO 36. So now we know that we should be getting one invoice from Trane for the contactor, another invoice from Trane for the motor. And now we can really accurately track how many invoices we should be expecting, so we bill for everything. Customers will not let us bill for stuff that we forgot. So this is really, really important. But a huge time saver. You'll be able to do this on your own, and you won't need the office's help at all. From there, equipment, we're not really going to use this right off the bat, but you will be able to specify exact equipment that you were working on so that we can track that going forward. Model, serial number, you'll be able to see specifically what was done on the job site to specific pieces of equipment and when it was done. So that'll be kind of phase 2 of this as we get going. Forms, one of the cool things that we're going to be able to do is once we get going on this, we're going to be adding some forms. That includes common backflow forms, safety forms, Freon forms, basically any form you can think of that you use on a consistent basis, preventative maintenance forms. They'll all be entered in here so that we can create them electronically and we can email our customers to them. And again, everything that we do in here stays in here forever so that we're able to go back and look. So any forms that were filled out, it's all in one place. Any pictures, which I'm going to show you attachments in a second, all of that stuff will be easily accessible by not just us in the office, but you in the field too. So forms, from there, I'm going to skip service reports because I want to jump to attachments. You can create attachments. You can take pictures of what's in the job site, what you're running into out there, anything at all that you want to have visually tied to this work order. You can come into attachments after you've taken a picture on the iPad. You just give it a name. Whatever the description, need to see this, blah, blah, blah. You'll upload that file. Click upload. I don't have anything here, but when you go on your iPads, you click upload and it'll shoot you right into your cameras and you can choose whatever pictures that you wanted to attach. Very, very cool, and can really help managers and other technicians who want to see exactly what you saw when you were out there, see if there's any difference whatsoever. So attachments are huge. From there, the next thing that we're going to do is service reports. So this is your work order, essentially, okay? And basically, it's going to have all what you're used to writing out. It's going to have everything that you've done, right? So it's going to have work completed, all the notes that you entered in there, return to place. These are your previous ones as well as this one. It's going to have your labor. I was here on 8:10, I was here on 8:13, who the technician was, what materials I used, the quantity of those, any additional charges, truck charge, backflow, and right now there's no dollar amounts on this. We're going to handle that on the billing end of things. It also gives us a little bit of flexibility in the field. From there, your customers on their iPads will actually be able to sign off. I'm using a mouse, so it's not very good, but I can put my name in, or you can put their name in. And then I accept signature. Now my work order has been saved, and again, this is basically what you're used to writing up by hand is now just going to be electronically done based on going through all of those steps. If you wanted to email it to someone, you can email it. So let's say I'm going to email this to myself, and I want to put a note in. Thanks, Dave. Let me know if you have any questions. And again, any field where I'm typing, you're going to be able to just click the microphone, start speaking, and as long as you're not, going down the road at 90 miles an hour with the windows down and it's clear enough that the microphone can pick you up, it's going to dictate it for you automatically. So that should be a huge time saver for you in the field as well, just being able to dictate as opposed to having to write everything out. If there were attachments I wanted to include or forms that I wanted to include, I could highlight that here. And then once I'm done, I click Save and Email, and that will then email itself off to me, and you are good to go. So if that work was then completed, you would go up to the status, you'd say dispatched, I'm now finished. There's no follow-up needed, so I'm not going to check that. I click Change. And now you see that call came off of my board. So all I have now is this other one that I would go through that exact same process on. I would go into details and I would begin working on that process here. And one of the things I told you is that based on the hours that you enter into each work order, that in turn is going to change your field time. So you can see that on Monday, August 13th for work order 300016 for international extrusions, I had 4 hours regular time. I'm going to check that because that's right. And once you've checked everything off at the end of the week and click Approve Selected, it will then email that off to the office so that they can make sure that all of your payroll gets processed properly. In addition, you'll be able to see if there's any mistakes. Is everything adding up wrong? Maybe I should have added more hours on a specific job. So you'll be able to do all of that and see all of that right from here. You just need to notify us if there's any changes that need to be made. So that is in what I hoped to have been a nutshell, but we're about 25 minutes in here. Just a glimpse into what the new software looks like and how it's going to work on a day-to-day basis. Basically, every job that you're going on, you'll be given an assignment. Those assignments will show up on your home screen here. And to work on any assignment, all you do is click on your details and go through this process. That, in turn, is what will create your service reports, which is what this one here will look like. Oops. I can't pull that one up because, well, you saw that one service report. So that will create your service report. That's essentially going to be what your new work orders look like, and that can then be emailed off to your customers. Rinse and repeat. Even if you're on a job that goes all day, you'll be given one assignment for that day. You can put your 8 hours, a brief description of the work that was done. If you needed to pull any purchase orders, you can pull POs. And then that same assignment would just keep moving to the next day, to the next day, to the next day. So that said, each of you are going to get an opportunity to sit down. We're going to give you some hands-on training with this. We're excited to get this rolled out. We think it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier and should help us communicate a lot more effectively. And if you have questions in the meantime, please stop by and let me know.